All right, welcome to Yin Yoga. And we have a request tonight to work on the Quadratus Lumborum, the QL muscle. And the QL muscle is kind of down low, slightly to the rear on the side body. So it's very important stabilizer muscle. But it does get very tight and create a lot of issues in the back for forward flexion and twists. So we'll spend a bit of time in that tonight. Take a moment to close your eyes and scan your body and just notice how your body is. If there's any whisperings from the body that would like you to be aware of. And then focus on your sit bones. Get them nice and balanced on whatever you're sitting on. And create a slight forward tilt in the pelvis. Shoulders roll back, palms face up on the thighs. And you can be in a kneeling or seated position. Cross-legged. If the knees are aching, you can have the legs extended. The reason I sit kneeling is it brings my hips into symmetry. As you inhale, press down through the sit bones, and as you exhale, relax the shoulders and lift the crown of the head. Let each new breath become a little deeper. And if you know the Ujjayi breath, the ocean sounding breath, start to layer that on so you can hear the sound of your breathing. On the next inhale, bring both hands down to the low back, on the sides, the fingers into the hips, thumbs gently above the hip bones, and feel the warmth of your hands in this area of the body where your hands are. And know somewhere deep in there, there's a QL muscle. So we're going to try and get into that area where the hands are today. Feel the warmth of the hands. And on the next inhale, lean forward, remove whatever you're sitting on, and come into wide-kneed child pose. Bring your attention back to that area where you just had your hands. Start to reach the hands forward so you have an extended arm child pose. Knees wide so that the belly is between the thighs. And feel the thighs tonight. Feel the quadriceps in this kneeling position. And noticing how the quadriceps determine the amount in which we can open the knees. Let the knees bend. Just feel that stretch in the low back. On the next inhale, lift the head and thread the right hand underneath you. Come down onto the right shoulder. Let the head rest on the ground, turning to the left. If the head does not reach the ground, consider bringing a cushion or a block underneath the head. So you feel your right shoulder grounded, your right elbow, the right side of the head grounded. And push the right hip out to the right so you feel a little stretch down in that area. Notice how that feels tonight. So we're also getting a shoulder blade opening while we push that right hip out, releasing that area. If at any time this gets too much on the quadriceps, bring the hips up a little bit and take the pressure off the knees. Three more breaths here. And then release. Bring both hands back out into reaching child pose. Press the finger pads down into the mat. Pull yourself forward and come onto your belly, stacking the hands under the head. Crocodile pose. Feel the knees and the quadriceps and the hamstrings all release. Bring the elbows up a little more, relaxing the shoulders. Bring your attention to the two lower back areas of the QL area, and just notice the contrast between the right and left side after that threaded child pose. Press down through the hips, lift the elbows under the shoulders so that the hands are close enough for the arms to reach, the hands to reach the upper arms. Drop the head, drop the hands, and come into Sphinx. Squeeze the buttocks, lift the head, bring the hands out to the edges of the mat, thumbs point straight ahead, fingers splay out to the side, elbows are wide, and then straighten the arms carefully into seal pose. If this is too much in the QL area or the lower back, come back down to Sphinx. Feel the hip flexors open up, the abdominals stretching out. And then exhale, come down. Hands push back into child pose. Release the low back. Extend the arms. Knees wide. And then thread left arm underneath that right arm. Threaded needle. Resting the side of the head on the mat or a pillow or a block, making sure the head and the shoulder are both supported here. Now start to push that outer left hip to the left, so you feel that stretch on that left side. And feel the breath here. If there's a little bit of challenge to the breathing here, use the shape, the pose, the asana to change the way you breathe. So find a way to breathe smoothly when there's pressure on the lungs, pressure on the belly. Exhale, release. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. And try a little cat and cow here. The next time you come into angry cat, hold angry cat. Hold that rounding of the back, tuck the tailbone, drop the chin, and let the angry cat just simply sway the hips left and right. Just a little sway left and right. And then exhale, find a block and sit on the block. Now I like to have my block on the lowest setting. It's just, I lost you there. On the lowest setting. And take your right foot over to the left side of the body so that the right knee is pointing directly ahead. If your right knee is lifted, I'm going to recommend you take a rolled up blanket or a cushion so that it's got something to push against. And then bring that left foot over that right knee. And then gradually work into shoelace pose by pulling at that left ankle, that left foot, walking back, getting the knees as close as you can together. And if there's a big space between the upper knee and the other knee, again, you can wedge something in there so that you feel a little compression there in that top knee. Roll the shoulders back and down, feel the ribs lift up. And then take the flesh from the left side of the belly and just scoop it to the center and hinge forward a little bit and come onto the fingertips, If your hands don't reach the ground here, bring them onto blocks. So you've got that sense. And you should be starting to feel this stretch down deep behind the body. Once again, into the hips, into the glutes. You'll feel this in the quadriceps again. And you'll also feel this on the outer thighs, the IT band area, the abductor area. Settle in and find a position that's not too intense. So let's say it's too intense, just walk the hands back a little bit so you find that you could stay here for an extended period. Feel the breath. Feel where you feel the sensations. Once again, just check in they're appropriate. And then take the right hand and bring it on top of the left hand. Feel that twist in shoelace pose. Gently breathing. Bring that right hand back. And then take that left hand over to the right hand. You can keep the head relaxed here, avoiding tension in the head, neck, and shoulders. Let all the stretching take place deep down in the glutes, where the thighs come together at the hips, and then into that low back. Exhale, walk the hands back. Walk the hands all the way back And just sit up tall for a moment. Notice how this area, let's put our hands back there and just put the hands back where we felt before. So the fingers go down into the hip area, the heel palms kind of up towards the kidneys, and just feeling that whole area that we're stretching back there. Not really getting into the QL muscle yet, but we're getting into these big muscle groups around it. Lean back, and we're going to change the cross of the legs. So this time bringing the left foot underneath first, left knee pointing straight ahead. Prop up that left knee if you need to. Right foot comes on top, and then you can walk the foot and assist that back so you feel this in the hips. Good. Scoop the flesh from the right side of the belly to the center of the belly, and then you can hinge forward so you've got less flesh pushing against the thigh here. So you've got more of a lean forward. Create umbrella hands and feel the stretch. Once again, you determine how far forward you come. Too much sensation is too much, so come back. Feeling no sensation is not enough, so come forward. So you kind of work that out with your own sensibility. And if you have a super high pain threshold, then I can't help you. All right, let's bring that left hand over on top of the right. So this is going to get in a little deeper. Five more breaths here. And then the other side. And then walk the hands back, uncross the legs, and come off the block and extend both feet forward together and walk your hands beside your hips, push out through the heel bones, toes curled back. Lift the ribs up as you push through the heels. So in yoga we call this staff pose. And while it looks very innocent, we're bringing a lot of stretch sensation to the back of the legs, calf muscles up into the hamstrings, pushing down with the kneecaps into the earth, shoulders stay back, chest stays open, and keep a Mona Lisa smile on the face. That's it. Good. Push a little more through the heels. Lift up through the ribs. So kind of opening up the bottom of the thighs here a little bit. Whew. But also feeling a strengthening in the adductors, the inner thighs. So we'll come to stretch them next. Release the pose. Have your strap handy. And I'm going to recommend you take a blanket and you tri-fold it. So kind of starts about this shape, this size. The edge of the blanket comes to the middle, and then the middle rolls over to the other edge. I call this the burrito fold. So it looks like a good sized burrito. Bring it behind the sit bones and sit on the edge with the legs extended. And you can have a couple of blocks or a bolster. If you have a bolster, I'm going to recommend a bolster. I don't have my bolster here handy. We're just going to start with the legs comfortably wide. And you'll notice my knees, the back of my knees does not reach the ground. And if you have tight hamstrings, you can bring blocks underneath or cushions underneath the knees to support the knees. So feel free to think that way. Now, if you have the bolster, stand the bolster up and rest your forehead into the bolster so that you have a forward hinge here. I'll show you what it looks like with a couple of blocks. I've got a couple of blocks. My head rests, and I'm simply holding dragonfly here. Now you can do it a couple of ways. You can round the back by dropping the chin to the chest, or you could even just hinge with the chin supported, so you have more of a hinge opening. And for some reason I'm drawn to that tonight. So just notice if your spine is rounding or whether it's straight. If you have osteoporosis or osteopenia, keeping the spine unrounded would be the best thing to do. So we're coming into the inner thighs here. Those adductors getting a big stretch. Now, as you relax into the pose, you may find that you can come down a little lower by moving the base of the bolster further out or restacking the blocks a little lower. And then gently walk the hands back. Lift your head away from the blocks. And there's a big stretch definitely in that area where our hands have been. So you could bring your hands back there just to feel that area. And then bring the soles of the feet together. So coming into the thighs in a different way, into Baddha Konasana. Knees out to the side. Now, knees out to the side, once again, let's say this is really intense on the inner thighs. This is where you can prop the knees up with blocks or cushions, and gradually over time push them further out towards the knees, and then they drop down. So this is a really nice controlled way to open up these inner thighs here. And once again, as you grab and hinge forward, you have the option of keeping the chin away from the chest, creating a hinge, a forward hinge, or you could drop the chin and round the back Now if you drop the chin and round the back, we're starting to once again stretch that area close to the QL muscles while we open the groin and the inner thighs. I like to support my head if I can when I come forward in this, so I'm going to use a couple of blocks to support my head. And then gently press the hands into the floor and let the hands walking back pick you up. Extend the left leg to the left and the right foot comes into that extended left leg. So it's like you're in a kind of tree pose here, a seated tree pose. We call this half dragonfly. And I'm right on the edge of my burrito, so my pelvis is still tilted forward without effort. So it's just from the hips are slightly elevated. Now keeping the toes curled back, so we want to keep this extension in the hamstring, this stretch in the hamstring. And we're going to simply start by hinging towards that left knee. Now to come into the QL muscle deeply while we come into the adductor here is going to depend on what this right hand is doing. So let's just play with this right hand for a moment. Lift that right hand up and look up towards the ceiling. You feel a big stretch right down in that right side. And then just bring it down towards that left foot. You might not reach the left foot, but you're kind of reaching towards it. Then bring it back up. And then grab your strap. Grab your strap. And I like to lean back, so I'm pulling it against my foot and I'm leaning back, kind of taking a holiday from that stretch. And then once again, lift that arm up, but this time you're holding the strap, you see? You're holding the strap, lifting it up, but the strap stops you from going too high. And then bring it back down. Now hold the strap with the right hand and take your left hand and thread it underneath the strap and grab hold of your right knee. So you kind of crossed the left elbow behind that right arm. And you're kind of in an awkward position. And notice how that stretches the inner groin, the inner thigh. And it's definitely stretching at the low back area. Find yourself breathing here. Now lift that right hand up again without letting go of the knee. And now we're starting to talk to the QL muscle. Now there's a couple of goals here. The higher we bring that elbow, the more we rotate the trunk and the more lateral flexion we get, so that takes us deep into the QL muscle. So that's one way to go, bringing that upper elbow back more. And if the longer your strap, the obviously easier that is. So if you have a longer strap, you can really lift that low elbow up. That's it, good. Now the second part of this stretch comes from the right hand creeping down the strap towards the left foot. So now we deepen that stretch simply by crawling down inch by inch, always stopping in that zone that feels right to stop, like not overdoing it. Now we're deep into QL territory on that right side. That right QL is getting tons of stretch here. And it's hard to breathe, so this is a chance to work on the breathing. Smooth the breath out. Resist the temptation to pant. And in fact, if you deepen the breath, you'll increase the stretch. And that might allow you to creep down a little further. For 3, 2, and then gently, slowly unwind yourself. Woo! Take a moment to smile here. Lift the corners of the mouth. One has to have a sense of humor when we're dealing with the QL muscle. That's quite a, it's quite a deep. You can understand why we don't stretch it too often. You have to kind of take a course in pretzel logic to get there. Oh. And then you'll notice that whole time we had that left leg extended, we were right into the hamstring, we were right into the adductor. So the thighs definitely got a good stretch in 2 dimensions there. Oh, I'm reluctant to go to the other side, but I guess we better go there, huh? All right, let's bend that left knee for a moment. I'm going to give that left leg a bit of a rest. So the wonderful thing I love about yin yoga is we don't have to hurry to get from one stretch to the other. The rebound, or the rebound from the stretch, is as important as the stretch itself. And if you found this an awkward stretch to get into, remember these words from a famous yogi. He said that every stage of a yoga pose is a worthy stage. Every stage. So no matter where you are with this work, it's a worthy stage. All right, so let's start with a little reaching towards that right extended leg, toes curled back, and just feeling out this side of the body. Whew. And you can feel the influence of particularly the left arm, as it reaches towards the toes or down the shin. You can feel the impact that has on the left side of the body. And once again, no rush to come into it. We'll get there. We're going to spend plenty of time here. And then start to lift that left arm up and look up towards the ceiling and reach that, rainbow that hand over the head as you look up. And then you'll start to feel, okay, there's the QL speaking to me right down there. I can feel that. And then you can bring it down. Now, if your left knee wants to keep popping up, you could put a 20-pound sandbag on it and just hold it down. Inhale, lift that left hand up, look up and rainbow it over the head. So you're starting to get that sense of where we're going. The more you bring the left elbow back, the more you'll feel this. The right ear comes down towards the right shoulder. And then exhale, release. And then slowly come up and grab your strap. All right, let's lean back. Just pull on the foot for a moment. Just pull on the foot. Push out through the heel, toes curled back, so we're really getting into the right thigh here. The left hand's going to take over both ends of the strap. Remember, the more strap you have, as you lift that left hand up, you can go higher when you have more strap. The goal is, over time, we want the left hand to chew up the strap and to make it shorter. But for now, it's nice to have that range of motion where you can really lift that elbow and pull you to one side, so we can start to get into that QL muscle. And then come up, and then take the right hand underneath the strap and grab the left knee. So we've done that little crossover. And this is where it gets interesting. So the right hand is locking in that right side. So as we start to lift that left hand, left elbow, that right hand doesn't give us any slack to move. So we're already deep into the QL. And then it's a matter of breathing, managing the breath in that area. And then we can start to walk the left hand down the strap without letting go of the right knee. Of course, as soon as you stop breathing, you've gone too far. You need to regather, smooth out the breath. And the breathing alone is going to give plenty of extra zing to that movement. Now, I've seen someone who can lay their back on that right leg, look up to the ceiling, and have that left elbow almost on the floor. So there is plenty of room for progression here. And then gently, slowly come out. Take your time, take your time. That's really deep work. That's really deep work. All right. So a little bit more work in this direction on the hips. Let's come into deer pose. So you won't need your strap. Come onto all fours. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. A little cat and cow here. And notice how you feel. So I'm feeling a huge difference in my lower back because of that stretch. So it's definitely a muscle that really helps release the low back and the hips. And then slide the right knee forward to touch the right wrist. Slide the right foot underneath your left thigh. Curl your toes with the left foot. Walk your left knee back a bit, as if you're coming into pigeon pose. And then drop the back toes. Lean into the right side of the body and come onto your right elbow. And bend that back leg. Take your left hand to that right foot and push it up until the shin is parallel to the top of the mat. You're still leaning into that right elbow, and you can come up onto your right hand and then scoop the flesh from the right side of the belly to the center, and then lean forward over that front thigh. You know, you can have your hands down, you can have elbows on blocks, you can have elbows on the floor, but you're just feeling what's appropriate. And once again, we're coming into the outer thigh here. So we're feeling plenty of release in the outer thigh. Another nice thing you can do is simply rest your head on a block. So your head is completely free to hang. I like that one in this pose. It takes a lot of pressure off the neck. So we're not getting exactly the same experience as pigeon pose, but we're getting something similar with less pressure on the knee. Let the hands turn into umbrella hands, so you come onto your finger pads and start to walk your hands out away from you so that your hands and arms become the rack of the deer. And you change that stretch, it comes more into that inner thigh, outer thigh, low back, smooth the breath out for 3 more breaths. Then walk the hands back. Let the hands pick you up. Don't use the back. Let the hands prop you up. And then just pause for a moment. Bring that right foot back a little bit more and move more towards your conventional pigeon pose, but then come back to all fours, tabletop, and wag your hips from side to side. Notice the outer thigh on the right side's really opened up. Slide the left knee forward towards that left wrist. Slide the left foot underneath the right thigh. Curl the toes of the right foot. Walk your right knee back a little bit so you get that nice stretch in the hip flexor. And then lean into your left side. So you're leaning into your left hand or your left elbow. Right hand grabs the left foot and just pushes it up until the shin is kind of roughly parallel to the top of your mat. You can bend that back knee. Scoop the flesh away from the left side of the belly and then lean over your front thigh. You can rest on your elbows or blocks or hands. You can rest your head on a block as well. So we take time to acclimate into this thigh. Feel the breath, make micro movements of adjustments. And then umbrella hands, walk the rack of the deer out. Big stretch. Smooth the breath out. Five more breaths here. Use the hands to pick you up. And bring both feet forward to the top of the mat. Bring the heels out to the edges of the mat and then lay down. Lay down. If you need something under the head, that's fine. Now walk your shoulders and shoulder blades to the left. So your head is kind of right on the edge of your mat. And bring your left ear down towards your left shoulder. Hook your right foot over the left ankle. So we're getting into the QL muscle and the IT band, the exterior thigh here. Now notice your left foot could almost be like a windshield wiper. It can push that right foot further to the left and create more stretch if it wanted to. So you can add your own little zing here. Reach both hands over the head and left hand grabs the right wrist and kind of pulls the right wrist also to that left side. So the whole right side of the body is stretching right down through the tricep of the arm, into the ribs, down into the QL, down into the IT band, the outside thigh, the outside from the knee down to the right ankle. You can increase sensation in several ways. One is to simply walk a little further to the left with the shoulders. One is to breathe more deeply. Probably my favorite. And one is to push against that right foot with the left foot. Maybe even bring the feet further over. And try to keep both buttocks, if that's the right word, down on the ground, so we keep the QL muscle engaged in the stretch here. We don't lose the QL. And quite frankly, my QL feels much more open after that previous pretzel stretch we did. So this one could be more for the thighs and the ribs and the tricep. Five more breaths here. Release the wrist and just relax for a moment. Let's come out of this nice and slowly. That was a deep stretch. Uncross the ankle and let the head kind of roll to neutral. Bring the arms slowly back. Start to walk the shoulders back to center, head back to center, hips to center, and bring the heels to the edges of the mat. If the head needs support, support the head. And feel the contrast between that right and left sides of the body. Start to walk the shoulders and the shoulder blades to the right side of the mat. And bring the right ear down towards the right shoulder. Hook the left ankle over the right, trying to keep the sit bones as grounded as possible, or the back of the hips grounded as possible, so you're not lifting the pelvis up, you're more curving it into that side stretch where the QL is located. Windshield wipe your right foot, just feel that you could pull that left foot a little further to the right if you wanted to. And now the stretch begins in earnest. Lift both hands above the head. Right hand grabs the left wrist, and you can find your own amount of pressure here that feels moderately uncomfortable for now. The discomfort may grow, or you may find that you relax more and you can add more stretch. You can add more stretch by pushing the foot further to the right, pulling the arm further to the right, or increasing the exhale. And just notice if you can go a little deeper or not. Five more breaths. And gently release the hands. Let the head come back to neutral. Uncross and bring the heels to the edge of the mat. Straighten the body. And let the arms come out 90 degrees. Feel the rebound or the echo of that stretch on the left side. And take a moment to notice your low back. If your low back is tender right now, consider bringing a bolster under your thighs or blocks under the knees. If you feel comfortable, remain in pentacle pose and relax. Relax into this variation of Shavasana. Particularly let the jaw go limp and the eyes become still. Notice your breathing. Bring your attention into the digits, the fingers and the toes. And then bend the elbows and the knees, standing the feet on the mat. Let gently windshield wiper the knees left and right. Feel that hip area. Feel the calm after the storm. And then roll all the way over to one side. And in your own time, come up to a seat. Notice this transitory pose, this between practice and activity pose. And bring your hands gently back into that QL area and just feel the warmth of the hands. And a little thank you to the QL for all its work in stabilizing the hips and the spine. Namaste. Thank you, folks. Thank you, QLs out there, all of those QLs.